We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live.
Greetings, guys. Sunday night, 10 p.m. You're live with the Tang clan. Uh, we're short Diana this week. She couldn't make it, but we have somebody special that I'm sure everybody here knows. Tonight is a special night for me. Before the Tang clan was ever a thing, I reached out to a guy for help. You know, somebody who I considered the gold standard in pool media. I asked Molina Mike here for advice. He didn't brush me off. He took time to answer me, offered guidance and helped me understand, just exactly what I was getting into, gear questions and all that. A few years later, we met at Super Billiards Expo at Roy's booth. It was Zen Q's and then Magic Rack Roy was there.
Oh yeah.
I had my father with me. You shook my hand. We introduced each other, and then you went right over to shake my father's hand. And he's by far the most important person to me. And you showed him respect. That's something I never forget. So tonight, not just an opportunity to interview Mike here, but it's also an opportunity to say thank you for helping me in the beginning when nobody did. So, ladies and gentlemen, the host of Dogging It, Molina Mike.
Dude, that's quite an introduction. I don't know if I'm deserving of that, to be honest with you, because I forget a lot of things, man. So I think I remember the Roy's at Super Billiards Expo. The messages I don't remember, but I get hit up all the time. But I'm glad I could help. I don't know where I would be without help. So
years ago, I was starting something with Jay, and through more breakups than the fucking Beatles, it is what it is now. It's my thing. But yeah, it's me and him were starting something at the time. I reached out to you, right down to the computer. You told me what to get. It was like one of those
I'm not even that. It was probably a bad computer then, because I got no experience. If I'm being honest with you, so
don't be honest, man.
I just no. I'm being honest, man. It's funny because I just got a new laptop after I don't know how long, and I needed one. But yeah, I was like clueless for forever, and I still am. But I learn as you go, learn by mistakes. I always say.
Yeah, definitely. First off, are you a Spurs fan? You're in Corpus, right? You're pretty close to San Antonio?
Yeah, I'm like 2 hours south of San Antonio. So I mean, obviously we got like this part of Texas is always filled with Spurs fans and Cowboys fans for sure. I don't think I would consider myself either. But I love basketball, and I've been enjoying this finals just for the like competitiveness of it. It's been a good game. So, and I know you're a Knicks fan. I think I've seen it on one of the flyers.
45 years I've been a fucking Knicks fan. It's been a
lot
long
of heartache then. Yeah. I think the series has still got a lot left to be written, though. That's for sure. And the last two games have been phenomenal, though, especially this last game. So,
well, yeah, it's 13 games in a row. It's every one of these games. I was like, man, we're losing this one. We're losing this one, and they've surprised the absolute shit out of me.
I don't know if I'm still a believer. I'm being honest with you. I'm a believer in Brunson. I'm not a believer in Cat, and that's the one thing but he's been delivering. So it's like, I was telling a buddy of mine going into it. I'm just like, that dude's always been real fucking soft in my opinion. But but Brunson though I knew because I grew up in Arlington, and so I would go and spend summers. Like I'm more of a Mavs fan than I am anything else. That's for sure when it comes to basketball. And so I knew Brunson obviously because he was with the Mavericks for so long. But yeah, no, it's been a great series. Yeah, you're good. Go ahead. It's been a great series so far. I'm excited for tomorrow night. So
yeah, it's the way they've been getting over on Wemby there. It's you expect it. You expect him to just have a monster game sometime soon. But
I ain't seen it, man.
Yeah,
I ain't seen it. So we'll see.
I think about New York and how they react to shit. It just seems like so much more of a basketball town. Like I've been there for years. I grew up mostly in Vegas, and then I came back east. But it's just always been like a Knicks town. Like everybody was just so infatuated with basketball. People go crazy for the Yankees and the Giants and shit like that. But so much. I think if the Knicks win, it's going to be crazy. You see places grease the light poles.
It'll make the '94 Rangers Cup look like, I don't know what it'll make it just look like a kiddie ride at Disney World.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be insane. I mean, it'll be the most ludicrous party you'll have ever seen.
I was there last summer. I was there that summer. Knicks went to the finals, lost in 7. Rangers won in 7.
Mm-hmm.
The World Cup was there. You know, it was a wild time to be in New York. And it
I
seems
bet,
like so
man.
long ago, man. I was a freshman in high school, and now
That's
I've
when
been out of
basketball
school
was
like
great, though,
30
man.
years.
Physical, inside out.
Yeah,
You know.
80-point games. You know, it's
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
What's
I look at now, and
what's
it's like they seen over unders like at 117, and you always think it's gonna go
right.
like 150 plus, especially the way that New
All-star
York
scores.
runs and guns. Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole different game compared to whenever I was a kid.
What's interesting is I was in Houston that summer in '94.
Oh, really?
That
Yeah,
was
I
a
went
good
to
year
the
to be in Houston.
yeah. I went to the parade. It was fun.
Hakeem the Dream. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
They went back to back, and didn't they lose in the conference finals against Utah
In
the,
'96.
the third year when
Yeah,
they
I
were going
think
for the
so.
three-peat?
Yeah.
John Stockton hit that bomb from like half court or something like that. Man, I was into
You're,
basketball my whole life. You know, being a Knicks fan, obviously it comes in waves and everything like that. But Patrick Ewing was a god to me. You know, I wanted to
Such a
be like
great
Anthony
player.
Mason, a white boy shaving shapes and shit into his head.
it's a good
Let's
times though, man.
yeah, that's what it was. It was the golden age
Yeah.
of basketball, and even that Jordan thing that came out, the Last Dance. It was
Yeah. Yeah.
like a walk through history of every time they shit on us going to a final.
Well, yeah, you weren't the only ones, buddy. Indiana, it was
Yeah,
Detroit.
yeah,
That list was pretty long. Utah, you mentioned. So, but yeah, that's what basketball for me was great, man. That's how I grew up, falling in love with the game. To be honest with you, it's
yeah,
so physical and so intense, and it's crazy to kind of see through like how just sports, like that sport in particular, has like just evolved in our generation. Because now it's completely different game. I think Curry just completely revolutionized the game, and now you see these kids that are just 3-point snipers, and it's like I can't even. I can't wrap, like, the kid in me can't wrap my head around what I watch sometimes. You know what I mean? Because I'm just so used to seeing things differently whenever you were a
yeah.
kid, especially seeing like Jordan and then you see Kobe, but like you don't get to appreciate it while you're like in the moment. And it's funny that you're like all this is going on right now, because as the Knicks are up 2-0, all these Kobe videos are getting recycled where he's up two
Yeah.
zero and he's just like, what's there to be happy about?
Job's not
Job's
done.
not done. Yeah. And I'm just like, hell yeah, dude. How can you not love a guy like that?
Mamba
So
mentality. Yep.
yeah, dude. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's man. I think about it. I get excited, but that's exactly the thing. The job's not done. If anybody can pull off 4 out of the next 5, it's San
Yeah.
Antonio. And
They
I,
got
I
they
see
got
these.
heart though. That's the one thing I'll give the Knicks, man, because I thought they were. I'll be honest with you. I thought they were gonna get their ass blown out
Yeah.
both games, and then they started up like 10. I started up by 10, uh, early on in both them games, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And then I came back to watch towards the end of halftime, and I'm like, especially after game two. Game two at halftime, I was like, man, this is the same shit that happened in game one. Exact same way. Momentum's everything, and so, but I think it's just gonna make for a fun rest of the series, that's for sure. So
Yeah.
I hope we get 7 out of it.
They had a stat I seen. It said the Knicks haven't lost a third quarter the entire playoffs, and
That's strong.
for them to be down and come back multiple games like that, that's a hell of a stat to throw out there. And that just,
Yeah.
they always tell each other in the huddles, play desperate, and that's exactly. I think they know what's at hand. Like it's been 53 years. The last time the Knicks won, I don't even think color TV was in existence then. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's to me. If you win that stat, that's coaching and that's heart right there.
Right. Right.
That's what that looks like to me when you come out, especially when usually and typically the first 2 games they've been down. So, or at least they were just mounting a comeback at that point. Maybe had just gotten a lot closer. So that's a great stat though.
Let's get started in this interview, Mike.
Sure.
I want to. you're talking about you're from Corpus Christi. Is that where you were born? Were you born and raised in Corpus, or are you Texas guy your whole life?
Yeah, I mean, Texas has always been home for sure at some, some part of the state. But for sure, Corpus has always been like not even home away from home. I mean, it's been home. And so no matter now over the last few years, been able to travel a little bit more doing stuff, but um, yeah, it'll always be home, no matter if it's the fucking hottest part of the year, like right now, or if it's 70-degree,
Mm.
Thanksgiving, it doesn't matter. So it's it's always going to be home, or always has. And um, yeah, I mean, I got my girls going to like the same school I grew up in, same neighborhood I grew up in, and so
Nice.
it's like different to see the world evolve. That's for sure, through their eyes and through mine. But yeah, it'll always, no matter what, it'll always be home. And I thought about moving a few times, and I have moved a few times in my life, like to Dallas or Houston or whatever. But Corpus is always home. It always will be.
How many daughters do you have? Three, four?
Four girls. Yeah, four girls.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you just had a grandbaby.
I did. Yeah, she just turned three
Wow.
months old, like
Congrats,
maybe like
brother.
2 days ago. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, yeah. It's been an interesting year. Like I went through like last year, my daughter, my oldest, came to stay with me. It was right around this time too, and we like, I ain't necessarily been like the best dad to her. My other three girls I've been more present with than I have with her for sure. And but last year she'd hit me up and she was like, "Hey, I forgot what was going on. They were moving or something, and they were like in a transition." And she said, "Hey, can I go stay at the house?" And I was like, "Yeah, the house is always yours. Whenever you need it to be." And so she came and stayed with me. And last year in particular, like we reconnected real well, and we started going to church together. And I started taking my other girls to church as a result. And then when, yeah, when I found out she was pregnant, I had like this real, like, it was tough. It was really rough for me as a man and as a father. And I did a lot of like soul searching and praying, and had days I felt like a failure as a dad. But um now, you know I love that little girl to death, love my daughter to death. She's um I think she grew up faster than what she needed to. And I certainly wish she would have done things differently. But
Yeah.
I had her when I was in my early 20s, and I always tell her, like, it was funny because a friend of mine asked me the other day. They said, "Well, how does it feel like to be a grandpa?" And I'm like, "Shit, I don't even know if I'm ready to be a dad, let alone a grandpa." So like, my point is, there's never like a perfect time. You know what I mean? And so, but life will be what it'll be, and we're a resilient bunch. So, and
Yeah.
I'm real. I wouldn't change a thing for the world.
Yeah.
So,
Well, at least you're cognizant of it, and you know that you still have plenty of time to make it up and to be a great grandfather. I lost a kid with my woman, years ago, and I wasn't lucky to be a father, but I'm an uncle a couple times, and
there you go.
I become super uncle, and I make sure I
Uh,
get them all the top shit. But I'm
there you
also,
go.
not going to let them have it easy. It's a
Yeah,
whole other world out there from when we were kids.
Mm.
Shit was, we had a lot less limits, but there was a lot less crazies out there, and now you got to watch for people online, coming at you, and not just the people on the street. You try to take advantage of you. So
sure. Yeah, yeah. Especially
it's
these days,
definitely,
this day and age.
there's no manual involved for this shit. You
No,
you learn as
no.
you go.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, like, I remember getting my oldest at the house with me by myself when she was like a month old. I didn't know shit about fucking having a daughter by myself. You know what I mean? But like, there was never, you cry, you feed her, you change her diaper,
Yeah,
hold her, you comfort her, and then as they get older, you try to be there for her. You don't want to do too much. And now I've learned with all my girls, it's like they all got their own vibe. You know what I mean? And so some need more attention than others. Sometimes you got to pull back. Sometimes you got to be on them. And so, like, but it's like there's never this perfect manual. And then you throw in, you know, like the type of work that I do, and how um like unconventional it is. You know what I mean? Especially been traveling a lot more, like I mentioned. So it's there's been a lot of learning along the way.
yeah.
But I try to just have open conversations with them and be honest with them, and
That's all you
you
can
know,
do.
I'm that's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it, man. So
Who's the is that your youngest daughter that is on screen with you? She did the unboxing with you the other day.
yeah, yeah, it's my Madeline. She's my partner in crime, I always say, and she uh that's well, her sisters are back at their mom's, and so she decided to come over here today, and we went swimming and hung out, and that's kind of what I mean. Like everyone's got their own
Yeah,
personality and are
yeah.
different in different phases. You know, my other two, like one of them's going to junior high, the other one is going to like whatever it is, fifth grade, I think, right now. So they're like in different stages, you know, and
Oh yeah, you're all
uh,
over the spectrum there.
yeah, I try to like find things that interest them and try to connect with them. But at the same time, I'm a guy too, so like I want to go play catch with them. And my daughter, who I have the hardest time with, we'll go out and throw the ball, and she's got a mean arm. You know what I mean? But that's how we're connecting. And my Juliana, she's more sensitive of the bunch. My Madeline, she's down for whatever, and her, I took her to Vegas with me, for the last half of a trip. I think it was last year, the year before. And it's funny because even though she's the youngest, I trust her and how she behaves more than any of them, ironically enough. So it's just funny the way that life works out sometimes.
Have you had to go to any like like Britney Spears concerts, Taylor Swift shows, or anything like that?
No, no. I know my oldest daughter asked me to take her to some concert. I think before she ended up. I think after I found out she was pregnant and said she wanted to go to like a concert, and I said, "Man, you need to go to a concert. Like you need a fucking hole in your head right now, girl. You need to focus on getting shit together for that baby." And then my Juliana, so we went to go see the Interrupters. So they're like a punk rock band out of California, like a ska type band. And music's always been, no matter what, been like something where we can bond and connect with through all my girls. Even my oldest, when she was little, I was telling her this story the other day. I'm like, man, when you were a baby, I would just go and turn up the tunes and just go take you on a drive, and you would just chill out, and it was real easy. And so, but yeah, I took my Juliana for to a concert, just me and her. My Jasmine was supposed to go, and that day, as we were leaving town, she started melting down with an attitude or something. I said, you know what? I'm taking your ass back home. You can go stay with your mother. And then I said, you ain't gonna ruin the trip for me. And then me and Juliana, we had a great time, and had her on my shoulders as much as I could. And now my Madeline wants to go, so I'm sure that at some point there'll be some, Taylor Swift along the way. As long as the tickets prices aren't stupid, I'm open to it. You know what I
Oh
mean? But I'm
yeah.
not gonna go and take out a mortgage for a fucking concert. So
Mhm.
When did pool become a thing for you? Did you start out playing, or just something that
um,
you loved?
that was my granddad actually. So my dad and my mom got divorced before, like I think when my mom was pregnant with me. So I always had this real like mixed relationship with them, especially growing up. And so I grew up more around my stepdad, and then when my dad came, when I as I started growing up, 4 or 5 years old, whatever, then I started spending more time with my dad. But he was like a summer dad, is what I always called him. And that's one thing that I always said, like no matter what, that I never wanted to be for my girls was a summer dad because I grew up with that shit. And not to say that
Yeah.
I'm not trying to shit on my dad. I love him. We got a great relationship now, but it wasn't always the case. And so anyway, he's been with my stepmom since I can remember. And so, she's like a second mom to me, and I love her like I do my mom, and so um but anyway, she has her dad, which is my granddad. He was in this little bitty town called Blessing, Texas. It's like 2.5 hours north from here, and if you blinked along the way, you'd miss it. It's a small town, one main street, and that was it. And when my dad and them finally moved to Texas, I finally got to go spend more time with him. And he was the one because he had a game room and he had a Valley bar box on there, and then he had all these big fucking trophies and all these cool pool cues, and I was just like in awe, as a kid. And then when I started playing, like fast forward another, you know, probably 15 years later when I started playing, then I would still go back, and that's how me and him would connect. I'd drive up 2 hours, maybe like probably for like maybe like 6 months. I was up there like twice a month. And when I learned how to drive, and I wanted to learn the game, and he was an old school hard ass guy, you know, and I could still hear him to this day give advice. And but yeah, he helped me like appreciate the game for what it was. And like I said, I'd see all these photos of people who I had no idea who they were, you know, and yeah, that's how I fell in love with pool, you know. That and a lot of alcohol at the time too when I was a kid. So when I was like in my early 20s, you know. So
Oh, yeah, social lubricant.
yeah, for
Was
sure.
there a player that that lit the fuse for you? You know, you seen this guy and you were like, man,
Mm,
I got to do this more.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, probably like I don't know. I mean, probably like Mika comes to mind, you know, because of his like exciting style play, you know, and 20 years ago, he was a fucking man, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And so, and I just, he didn't lack confidence. He, you know, didn't mind moving the ball 2 rails every time he needed to, big draw stroke, you know, and I can remember he had a DVD on how to play pool, and it was like one of the first instructional things. And
yeah. It was a series,
uh,
wasn't it? There was a
yeah, it
couple of them.
was.
Yeah,
It was. Yeah, yeah. And they came up on like YouTube or something. Somebody probably ripped it off. I don't know, but yeah. So it was just probably Mika, I would say, you know. But obviously, like the legends, like I got Efren right here, and
yeah,
you know Earl, and you know, as I started learning about the game, I started appreciating more about him. But like you know, there's you want to be cool and hit the ball well, you know what I mean, and make the cue ball move. So yeah, he was certainly up there for sure.
yeah. My growing up, my guy was always Ginky. It was he was an Italian guy from New York. You know, it was like looking into a mirror, and it's you know there's not a lot of footage out there of him. There's not a lot of trophies out there with his name on it, but he was a guy. It's like you seen him play. It was like dude was all heart. You know, he went to battle with the Filipinos years ago. Jose Perica and the matches against Efren. ESPN days where these guys are wearing tuxedos and playing and all that shit. You know,
Yeah.
that was it for me. You know, it was everything was larger than life back then.
I've heard a lot of stories about him. I've heard a lot of people that I respect have a lot of respect for him. You
Yeah,
know, and
and that's
I've spoken very highly about him.
as soon as you brought up Mika, that was like he was one of the first people I thought about. I've seen him on tribute videos. You know, I think about Mika. You know, obviously he's Finnish, but he was a New York pool player,
Yeah. Hmm.
and they were New York guys. And, you know, you couldn't talk about one without the other. Um, what I went back into the Dog and It archives. I was just
Oh boy.
it
I don't
was
know if it's
just
a good
some
thing or a bad
stuff
thing.
I remembered. I wanted to know. I just remembered it always being Joey's show, and it's funny. I have a clip. This is how I first seen Dog in It. It was or back then it was Pool Player Podcast, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it was when Billy Thorpe had that fight with Rob Sayers. Rob Sayers called him the N word. Billy called him the F word, and Billy caught the shit for it. And next thing you know, this interview came up. It's Joey with Billy, and he's asking him if he has a problem with gay people. And I was like, who in pool media has ever asked these hard hitting questions like this? It just I became like an instant fan right from there.
So, Billy, I have a number of friends who are gay and play pool. You uttered a derogatory term about gay people. Is that how you really feel?
No, that's not how I feel. I just want to deeply apologize to everybody out there. That is not how I feel at all.
Can I just say I can't believe how young Billy is there? And
Yeah,
this isn't this. We're not that far removed from this, and he just looks like he is straight up a teenager. Oh my god, that's insane.
How long ago was that? It's
that
been the last
it says
5 years.
5 years. It,
Five
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
yeah,
it could
five
even
years
be back.
ago.
Yeah, it could
No,
even
it was
be back
five.
as
It
far
was
as 6
5
years.
years.
Yeah.
No, 5 years ago, 100%.
How did that get started for you? You were a guest on the show with Joey.
Yeah. So Joey had hit me up, and um, he was like a different thing at the time. You know what I mean? What he was doing, and I had heard about it. Um, and I'm trying to remember. I think I so the way I want to say the way that I met Joey first was I'm at the Texas Open with Nick De Leon, and I knew Nick, and so one time we were leaving, and I think we were gonna go have lunch or something, and Nick says, "Hey, I'm gonna invite my buddy Joey." And I was like, "Who?" And I'm like a real introvert, you know what I mean? And so he points over there, and I'm like, "The redheaded guy?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "All right, yeah, okay, cool. I'll do it." And then and I remember at the time the dinner was terrible. I mean, dinner was good, but I was going through some shit with probably my not probably with my daughter's mother at the time. And I'll never forget because I was just like fucking I was just miserable texting her back and forth. And she's arguing me and bitching me out about something. And we didn't really get a like vibe, and I was probably more rude than I should have been because of shit that was just going on with me personally at the time. And so but yeah, then fast forward, Joey was still doing his thing, asked me to come on, do the show. I did the show, I enjoyed it. And then he ended up starting a show with Mark White, and where they were interviewing players and talking with players, and just talking about stuff going on in pool. And uh, throughout that time, I guess between those 2 points, Joey had always respected my opinion, and I think he knew that I would just shoot him straight if nothing else. And so he asked me something, and honestly, God, I think they just misunderstood what they were asking me, or something was lost in the communication. And Joey calls me up maybe like another day later, and he was just like, "All right, yeah, so man, we love your idea. We'd love to have you on. So just well, it'll be the three of us going forward." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" I said, "That's not what I said at all. Like, that's not what I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to insert myself into the y'all's thing. You know what I mean?" And so, and I told him that, and he was like, "Oh, well, come on, we talked about it and blah blah." I said, "Okay," and I gave it open mind, and jumped into it. Didn't have any experience or any confidence or anything with it. You know what I mean? And so, but they were willing to kind of help, guide me along the way, and it was different personalities, and so yeah, the rest was kind of history after that.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. So it went to the Booth Buddies. It was the Booth Buddies with Joey and,
The
and
Booth
Mark White.
brothers. Yeah,
Booth
yeah,
Brothers. There we go.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and then you get on there, and then it. I don't know if that dissolved. It became like the first episode of Dogging It with you and Joey.
Yeah. So Mark at the time was, this is before he was doing commentary. So Mark wanted to go like all in, and God bless him for it. And I really admire that about him. Um, and so we were going to the Rio, and we had gotten permission to go set up and camp out there, and it was kind of like one of the first go on the road type deals. And so didn't know what to expect. And anyway, we had already been doing the show for a little bit. Mark says, "I'm flying to the US, and I'm just like fucking selling everything, and I'm just gonna go and just see what I can make of doing something in the pool world." And I'm like, "Well, good luck to you, buddy. Let's do it." And so he jumps in, shows up at the Rio. We introduced him to Ozzy, and he started off doing like updating scoreboards. So before, like, they would have tablets at every table, yet somebody was walking around manually updating a score, kind of like how AZ Billiards would do at like tournaments like the
Right.
Ginky or at Turning Stone or whatever. And so, but that's kind of what Mark did. And then Mark got into doing commentary, I think, for like some league side of stuff. And then he ended up getting his foot in the door with the Pro Billiard Series, and then the rest is history. And he did a real good job with that. And then, but we had our differences for sure, did me and Mark, and because he wanted to do things differently, and I can be an asshole in my delivery, and so we kind of bumped heads at times because of it. But like, I always just left that shit at the door, you know what I mean? Because it was never
Yeah.
nothing, personal when it came to me. Um, but yeah, and then so he ended up going off and doing more stuff with the Pro Billiard Series and doing commentary for them, which he still does and does a great job. And then me and Joey, started doing dogging it together, and it just kind of, yeah, just one. I wanted to do stuff. I wanted to talk about things. You know what I mean? And so we did it.
So what's Joey saying in the meantime? With playing,
Uh,
making this thing with Mark, and then Mark going away, and then is he was he excited
Joey
to
doesn't
do
like
something with
Joey doesn't
you or
like confrontation. And Joey is like he's fucking Sweden. Always has been and always will be. And so, and I can appreciate that and love that about him. But I'm more of like I want to do it anyway, and I'll just
yeah.
apologize later for things.
Right.
And so, but Joey's real like by the book and kind of a stickler. And so I think he felt bad. I felt bad because I wasn't trying to like, get in between them or nothing. You know what I mean? And but Mark Mark had plans or had dreams outside of doing the show, which is, more power to you, um and even then, like creatively, and I'm sure to some extent, maybe you guys have discussions like this, like when you get three people working together, it's hard to do, especially like if you
Yeah.
if you have a vision, and I'm a like for better or worse, I'm gonna say what I want to say. I'll try to be tactful about it as best I can, but when it comes to like creative stuff, or if I don't like the way something looks, or how I think the delivery is going to be, whatever, like I'm going to let you know. And sometimes I can be good, sometimes I can offend someone or piss somebody off, or stir some shit up, but I'm not, but like where you I feel like where you come from matters a lot, right? So like if I get a call, like Collins for example will ask me, hey, what do you think about these graphics? And I'm like, I don't like this and this, but everything else I love. And so, but he knows that like I'm trying to, the reason why I'm saying the things I don't like is because I want things to be better. And I'm not saying my way is better,
Yeah. You
but
want to
like
help them.
the goal is coming from not me shitting on you, but from me trying to help you deliver a better end product. You know what I mean? And so, when people start taking things personally, I can only say but so many times, like, yo, I'm not trying to shit on you in particular. I'm not trying to shit on what you got going on, whatever. But after a certain point, if you continue to feel that way, I'm not gonna keep on like going back and forth about it. Like if once I let you know, hey, this is where I'm coming from, I just want to squash it and move on with life. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, the only time I'll get like in any kind of position where I'd get annoyed or whatever is when it keeps on coming up, because it's like, yo, I thought we already hashed this out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if we didn't, then we should have then. You know what I'm saying? So, but creatively, like you gotta. Everyone's got their own vision when it comes to stuff. You know what I'm saying? And especially when you're doing things like this, and I always like I wouldn't have been doing any of this shit if it wasn't for them and that story or mistake or however you want to go and say it way back when, and so while I can still be appreciative of it, you know I'm still going to be who I am at the end of the day, for better or worse, and so, but yeah, it's par for the course, you know what I mean?
That's what I noticed about our stories, pretty much, or how we're perceived in this. I started off exactly like you. Jay was doing those Instagram lives, and I was always in the chat. We became friends. We decided we wanted to do something more. We did a few Instagram lives, and then it was like, let's do it on a bigger scale to YouTube. He's got creative ideas. I have creative ideas, and we clashed at every turn.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, it's go ahead, do your thing. I'll do my thing. I think there in those things where it's multiple people, there has to be an elected spokesman. There has to be a union head. It's we're going to go in this direction. I'm open to hearing everybody's stuff. You can ask Jeff. I think I'm pretty diplomatic
Yeah.
about accepting
Oh,
everybody's
yeah.
ideas and everything. But it's
Tell the truth,
it,
Jeff. Come on. No, I'm kidding.
I'm not a tyrant.
No, I mean
all
overall
I
it's
ask for
carte
is
blanche,
headphones and
but
internet.
yeah.
That's not a tough ask, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But it's one of those things where it's I think a creative presence, like you said. This is how I view things. I think this at the end of the day, this is still creative. It's not playing a guitar. It's not painting a picture. We're using ourselves as the instrument to portray what we got to portray. So that's where I think we got to get out our creative juices. Whether so many people may not like it, shit.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I don't like it at sometimes, but still, you got to have the vision to push through this stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like, look, for I've fundamentally, like, no matter what it is that I've done when it comes to anything like this, whether it's the show or just posting content or going and talking with players on the fly or whatever, like I've always held one thing true, and it's always like, I think I'm a tough sell. So I think like if it interests me, maybe there's a chance it may be interesting to somebody else, you know?
Yeah.
And um I've just kind of like held that. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of times, and like you may not know if this is going to work. And there's been plenty of times where I think, hey, I think this is a great idea, and then it ain't worth the fuck and falls flat. And then there's other times where I think that's a dumb idea, but I'm kind of running short of material, so we're going to run with this for a minute, and then we'll kind of just keep on pivoting from there. And then that ends up being great. So like, there's no rhyme or reason or rhythm to it. You just got to figure out what people are like, what's going to resonate with people,
Yeah.
who and not just that, but like you can recycle the same shit in the pool world. There's plenty of it. Like you turn on Facebook or fucking YouTube, everyone wants to tell you how to hit a stop shot or follow two rails, and
It's
you know what I mean. Like
amazing.
it's the same shit all the time. And so, but going and especially like doing the stuff that we do, it's like, you know, it's hard to have an unpopular opinion. And no matter what, you ain't never gonna make anybody happy. Like everybody happy.
Right.
You're always gonna piss somebody off. You're always gonna upset somebody. One side is always gonna think you're playing favoritism towards the other side or whatever, you know. And so, but like, you can't think about it. You know, you just gotta. I feel like if you're true to who you are and true to yourself, then you know the cards are gonna be whatever they're gonna be. Just
Yep.
deal them. You know, let's keep it moving.
This, you know, what we do, you know, providing commentary on the world of pool. I can't tell you how many times in the past it was like, where can I get information from? Who won this event? You know, what the hell happened in the event? You know, what's going on? Not so much behind the scenes, but what's out there. It's that's why, you know, at the time, um, when Jay was doing his thing and he had his big page, it was important news. I knew what was going on in the pool world through that. Through your show, I know what's going on in the pool world, and you know it's you know that's what we do. You know, we provide recaps on events, current events, you know, news and all that stuff, and that's what I think that people appreciate is because it's hard enough to just to watch the events sometimes. You know, I heard them talking about on WPBA broadcast before. You know, Lonnie Fox, she goes, "Who the hell has cable anymore?" I go, "Well, shit, I got cable. I think a lot of people have cable." Um,
Yeah.
so I don't want pool to stop growing because we think people don't have cable out there. You know, there's a
Yeah.
lot of methods to get it on YouTube, and I'm grateful for that. But there's not a lot of methods to figure out just what the hell's going on. You know,
I think like people are just afraid to be different, you know, and to do things differently. And they don't want to look different. They don't want to act different. They don't want to talk different. They don't want to like, you know, it's, they don't want to go against the grain, you know, and you can look at that in like, in a lot of different aspects within the industry, you know. And so, but I feel like it's, you know, people who aren't afraid to kind of get out of their comfort zone, you know, have the most upside, you know what I mean? And so,
yeah,
um, I can think back, you know, 10 years ago, or I guess it's been about 10 years now, when the Revo came out, you know, and everybody and their mother fucking shit all over it. Now you go to any pool room and there's nothing but carbon fiber all over the
yep,
place with
Mhm.
league players, you know what I mean? But it's like you got to go through that in order to do that, you know? And I'm not saying like it's not a fucking praising predator speech, but it's just like a good example as to like the ebbs and flows that are going to come along with anything that you're going to do that's going to be different, because some people are going to love you, some people are going to really fucking hate you, and it's usually typically the ones who can't stand you are the loudest motherfuckers in the room. Those are the
yeah.
ones that are fucking, they're going to be the first ones to go and like, I'm going to fucking let this guy know, you know, what I think about him, you know what I mean? And so um but yeah.
I don't know if you know who Frank Mieletti is. He has Billiard Sport
Mhm.
Network.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Me and him met about a month ago. He wrote me a letter about how I was shitting on an event and I had a bad look on my face. I replied to him tactfully, and we wound up connecting and becoming friends. And he was on the show. What was it? 2 weeks ago, Jeff?
I think so.
Three
Yeah,
weeks ago.
something like that.
And we were talking about the same thing. It's people love to shit on you and bash your product, but they're the ones that are always in your chats. They're the one who are subscribed and watching everything that you do. But it's everywhere. If you put yourself out there enough, you're gonna get it. If you can't be
Yeah.
involved in social media and just be a voyeur and hide.
All is fair. Like
Mhm.
I feel like for part of what we do is talking about the sport, right? And part of that are the players that play the sport along with that. So like I feel like that's fair game, and I try to keep it on the table. I don't try to get too personal most of the time. And I'm not saying I've always batted 1,000 in that department because I haven't, but at least like I try to be conscious of that. But with the same hand, like doing what we do, it's fair to have criticism as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And not
yeah,
everyone's gonna fucking love you, and not everyone's gonna appreciate what you're doing or vibing off what you're doing. And it's hard, like you're human because you hear those things, you see those things,
yeah. We
you
put
know
our heart
it.
into this shit.
Yeah, and there's no like I know plenty of great players who are so awkward talking about things, and then I know players who aren't that great who are better speakers. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so, I don't think one necessarily gives you more credibility. In some circles, it does. And I can understand why. But no matter what, like if you're gonna be willing to have a public opinion or talk about things publicly, like the criticism on your take is as fair.
Yeah.
Now at the same time, I am if you're a dick about it, I'll just hit the block button and I ain't got and peace. I ain't got to deal with you anymore. But it just depends on the delivery of it for me when it
Yeah,
comes to people like that. So yeah, I mean it's gonna happen. It's inevitable. And only after the fact, like been doing all this shit, like I would hear from people where they would talk about other, people in similar in way bigger industries doing this stuff where they're like, little tips and advice like don't read the comments, don't do this, don't do that. I'm like, it's fucking a little too late for that. And so but um yeah, it's fun. It's great when things are positive. Sometimes it can suck when things are negative, but you signed up for this,
yeah.
and so all of it's going to be fair no matter what. So,
And I think
yeah,
the pool world's a little different when it comes to reading the comments versus not reading the comments because it's such a small community as a general whole.
sure.
Like no
Yeah,
matter how big it actually is, it is very small. And the people that are giving you negative or positive comments are people you can actually run into in real life,
yeah, yeah.
nonstop.
No,
So it's a real face behind the person that's saying it, as opposed to most communities where it's 3 million people and you'll never see them in
sure.
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, yeah. And look, man, it's there's never a perfect fucking rhythm for it,
Nope.
and there's never a perfect recipe for how to handle that. Like some people may say, engage, engage, engage. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Sometimes, like, I don't want to fucking engage. I just want to focus on the things that I'm doing and just kind of keep my head down. And so, but like I said, I mean, if you're willing to go and put your like I've been called every fucking name in the book. But the difference is like the funniest part is whenever like I'll get called a fucking keyboard warrior, and it's like, but I'm not on a keyboard, man. I'm right here.
Yeah.
Like you'll see me at an event.
Yeah.
I'll
Come
be
say
there.
hi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can tell you what my schedule is. And so, but out of like everywhere that every negative person or negative comment or opinion about how I've delivered things or the way I've done things, I've never once, not one time, I've had any one of those people, you know, come up and speak to me. Not one time.
Yeah.
And I've even had personal friends of mine who have checked me, which I appreciate and I love. Uncle Mike's a good example of that. You know what I mean? But like we got that openness about it. You know what I mean? And it kind of goes back to what I was saying when it comes to like how people deliver things.
Mhm.
And so, but yeah, I mean, it's just all is fair when you're doing stuff online like this, because if you wanna be vocal about it, and nothing's gonna give you respect, nothing, not one interview, not one conversation, not you can do 1,000 fucking shows, nothing's gonna give you respect. It takes time and just relentlessness. You know what I mean? To be um to like culturally be accepted, because pool's real fucking stubborn and
Oh
real,
yeah.
like, it's a changing of the guard. You know what I mean? You got a bunch of old fucks who just like are just miserable, and they don't like YouTube, and they don't like this, and I don't like that. It's just it's a weird transitional period right now.
And they
That's
complain about it all on Facebook.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I
Which
was gonna
somehow,
say.
how do we get stuck on Facebook? I wish we could find a way to switch the medium. I understand why it's there, but God, it's terrible.
Our numbers on Facebook are silly compared to the numbers we have on YouTube. It's I we should post a show on MySpace because I think we might break 100 grand on there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but hey, but you know what? If we're serious about getting our product out there, these are just the mediums that we have to
Yeah.
go to. You know,
yeah.
I I grew up playing Oregon Trail, man. I don't understand
Hell yeah.
this newfangled shit. I'm pushing 50. I don't want to get on TikTok, let alone Instagram, and put pictures of my face and my product up there.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but if you're going to be in this business, you know that's where you got to go, and that's what you got to do.
Sure. Yeah, and part of that is the ever evolving part because of, platforms or whatever,
Mhm.
and I've always, like, no matter what, you should always be pushing yourself and be uncomfortable. And even whenever I started doing shows with Uncle Mike, when Joey left, like, I was doing shit by myself for a little bit, but like it's just because I wanted to do it, you know. And even now I don't like doing shows by myself, but like after a while it's just like, well, what are you going to weigh more? Like, what's going to be more important to you? The the fear and the insecurity part, or just do you really want to do it?
Yeah,
Because if you really want to do it, just fucking do it, and then whatever will be. You make a fool out of yourself, live and let live, and then you'll learn from it. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
you ain't ever gonna know from sitting your ass down and just thinking about it. That's for sure.
I got plenty of shows where it's just me by myself, and every time I hear my voice, I cringe.
Yeah, there's always, yeah, you gotta, like, you have to go back and listen and hear about, like, for me, I'll
Yeah,
go back and I'll listen. What things am I repeating? What things am I saying over and over again that I don't want to do? What would annoy me if I was listening? You know what I'm saying? And so, but I think it's just part of being able to be, like, if you consider this like some form of art or whatever, like, then you have to constantly be thinking about how you can improve and how you can be sharper and how you can
yeah.
continue to do something different, because you can be cookie cutter all you want, but being willing to say the uncomfortable thing, to have the difficult conversations, to put yourself out there and be vulnerable is not easy to do. you know that's for sure.
Yeah, you said it before. You know, you said you felt like an introvert, and it's a very to those who haven't done it. And I guess you can look at people like Howard Stern. You know, the classic 60 Minutes interviewers and all that. You know, they had to do their first interviews too. You know, you just build off the last
Sure.
one, and it's if you're a conversationalist and you're a human being, I think when you talk to somebody, look, I tell you all the time, I write you messages, hey, great interview, and you always play it off, nah, but yeah, you have a supreme knowledge about pool, and you're having a conversation with people, and I think that's what comes off the most real about the situation, and I think that's why you have X amount of people watching you every week.
Yeah, maybe they're just bored and got nothing else better to do. No, I don't. Listen, I appreciate it. It's just, yeah, I don't. I wish I could say like I knew what worked and what didn't work.
Yeah,
I know I've tried to keep my head down as much as possible, and I'm still an introvert. When I go out to an event, it's way different because people, they know you. They feel like they know you. And you don't.
yeah.
You just see numbers when you're behind a screen. You know what I mean? And so you'll see analytics and metrics and whatever. And so when you go out to an event, that's whenever, like, it's cool, because you'll see people and they'll, like, you can see the sincerity, and they're like, man, I really appreciate what you're doing. Thanks for all the stuff you're doing, blah blah blah. And it's like, you don't get that, like, real connection from another message online or another comment in the chat, because it just
Definitely.
it's not as fulfilling, and so but it can be tough, because then, like I said, I'm still like, I want to go hide out in the corner, but then when you're at an event, like that's that person. And I told this to a lot of players, and I mean a lot of like really great players too, because they'll go through this where they're so like socially drained, and I said, man, when you got to think about is when that person goes up to you and they want to, show you some love or get a photo or whatever, like you got to understand they've been looking forward to that. And that's their like first
Yeah.
time, like even though you may be on the back end of a 4-month trip and you're just ready to fucking get home and get on that last flight and just not deal with anybody for a month straight, whatever, it don't matter. Like that's that one person's first time, and they were looking forward to talking with you. And you gotta give them, like, you gotta value those people because they are
Yeah.
important, And so, but it's hard because you're still human at the end of the day, So, um, but it's like, yeah, I part of me, like, I love when I'm home because I can kind of be in my bubble, I can be in my routine. But then, like, after I'm home for so long, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to get back on the road. I'm ready to go hit an event. I'm ready to go and do it all over again. So it's like it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah. One of the news bits we had this week was the fact that Oscar Dominguez finally got paid off from Johnny Archer. It's
Yeah.
been so many years. One thing that we know is that you're close with Oscar and you guys are pals.
Yeah.
When did you start being friends with him? Have you known him for a lot of years, or pre the
Um,
show,
n-
or was it because of the show?
was my first time going out to Philly was actually the first time when I met him, and we were putting in. Me and a buddy of mine had put in Raymond Ferrone in the expo. He ended up coming, I think, in second. Raymond's a Filipino, great player, but Raymond's got a lot of dog in him. And anyway, I remember one night we were there, and my buddy Daniel wanted to put Raymond in the box against Oscar. And I was like, man, I went in on putting him in the tournament, and so, but I was like, I said, you know what, Daniel, I don't really want to fuck with Oscar, man. One, he's Mexican like me, so I can't be betting against my people like that. I said, but two, I said two, like, he's just I was just a fan, I said he's a bad motherfucker. I don't want to mess with him, especially on the bar table. Raymond ain't never seen a bar table in his life. He's Filipino,
Oh,
and so but that's how I met him once. We stayed there sweating them gambling. Of course, Raymond loses, and Oscar takes the money. Got done like at 4 a.m. and that was the first time that me and him met. And then uh I don't know how we started working together. Um I think they had him and his wife Des had reached out to me one time to go work a tournament out there when I guess they were just thinking about different ways to, like, you know, just do a tournament differently, and my name, it kind of came up in conversation. And now it's been phew, now it's been probably 5 years now, and so maybe like 4 years, something like that. We've been real good friends. But he's like family at this point, and
Yeah.
so but I didn't like, you know, it, we get along, sure, but like that was never like the goal with any of this, and I always try to like respect people's lives, you know what I'm saying? And
Right.
so um but yeah, now I mean, I'm leaving on Wednesday to go out there again. I go out there at least probably 4 times a year now at a minimum. And so we talk all the time. Actually, they text me. Des called me or text me, and she was like, "You're never gonna believe what happened. This is like when I found out that Johnny was gonna pay." And so and it's funny because we ended up interviewing Johnny and Oscar, and
yeah.
Yeah, I remember
but
that.
I never, like, you can ask Oscar. I've never one time asked him to come on and talk about it because I don't like playing like the friendship part of it for the sake of the
Right.
show. You know what I'm saying? And so I always like left that shit alone. Anyway, I'll never forget one time I'm out hitting balls and Oscar texts me and he says, "Hey, Johnny wants to do a show." And I was like, "Do a show? What do you mean? The guy fucking hates my guts. What do you mean do a show?" And he's like, he wants to do a show and talk about it, everything going on. And I'm like, dude, I'll fucking go home right now and we can do it. Like, I'll fucking drive home
Yeah.
right now to do it. And to this day, it was still the most number of live people we had on at one time. I think it was like 2,500 or something on a fucking podcast about pool. Um, But like, you know, I've I've Oscar's a really nice guy, and he's got a ton of patience. I'm glad it got sorted out. I'm glad Johnny finally
Yeah.
manned up. And to those who don't know, like even after, so even after we did the show, Johnny had told Oscar like, "Hey, I'll give you my BCA Hall of Fame ring, which, as like collateral." And Oscar, being the nice guy that he was like, "No, no, no, it's not necessary." And this is like right after we did the show, and
I'm taking that ring.
and 100%, I'm taking the ring. 100%, no doubt about it. I'm taking the ring. And but Oscar, that's just how Oscar is. Oscar's just
Yeah.
a nice guy. You know what I mean? And so, for better or worse, um, but yeah, and then so like after Johnny A came on, I kind of like let it go on my end because I had talked to Johnny too, like afterward, immediately after, and I didn't respect why he did it. But I understood like shit happens. There ain't nobody perfect
Of
in life.
course.
We've
Yeah.
all fucking made mistakes. And so, um, but I think Oscar had long written it off as everybody else had as well, and it was just funny because I think it was just last week where Des, you know, called me. She's like, "You're never gonna believe it," and I'm like, get the fuck out of here, And then Oscar showed me a screenshot, and I'm like, no way, dude, But it's like you for him to go out of his way to do that randomly all these years later just
It,
showed that like
it
he
must have
really
been on his
wanted,
mind.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot more than anybody really knew. And it's easy to shit on someone while they're down. It's easy to kick on them while they're down and keep on harping on them. And I get it. Like you make your bed, you lay in it. But at the same time, like that just showed me that like he never forgot about it, and his reputation did mean more to him
Yeah.
than at least that one incident um left in a lot of people's minds. And so um before Oscar had sent me the screenshot when the money came in, and I was like, and he says, "It's not AI, dude. He paid." And I'm like, fuck, man. I
so
never, I said, go put it on black. Let's go.
so to play devil's advocate on this, and I think this is really, I think what you're saying is how it happened. I think that it was in Johnny. He wanted to get rid of it and make it his own and get rid of it. Is there a chance that there was another pool league involved that said, "Hey, you need to get this paid"?
No, 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 no,
Okay.
no. Because I don't think, and I've had, I don't want to say that conversation, but I've had like a conversation where it's like, and I've had people like within the industry, like, man, I can't believe they're fucking just having Johnny on, like nothing ever happened. And I said, I get it. Like I wouldn't either. You know what I mean? I wouldn't just fucking pretend like all is well, you know? Doesn't mean I want to go and just keep on fucking kicking the guy while he's down. At the same time, I wouldn't just like, if that were my product, I wouldn't be cool, but to each their own, you
Yeah.
know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And so, but no, I don't think that was the case at all. And from what I understood, it was like a private guy who was interested in supporting Johnny and said, "How can I be a sponsor?" And that Johnny was like, "Look, I really want to get this cleared up. Like, you want to
Okay.
help me? This is how it can, this is how you can help me." And so, which part of that came by him playing and him putting himself out there. And you dealt with, kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. Like, look, that the ridicule that he got and the shame and the shit talking and memes and everything else. Listen, that's part of the process. It's not always going to be all these guys wanting to hold you on a fucking pedestal. When you fuck up, like, you ought to be told you fucked up.
Yep.
You should. Um, but at the same time, like I said, everyone's fucking human. He made it right. I got a lot of respect for him for
Yeah.
making it
That
right. I
that's
don't
that's
care.
got to be a
Yeah,
reset for him now. Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, man. And so, um, yeah, and then it's on to the next thing, man. Life goes on. And so, but Oscar didn't listen. Oscar's doing okay in life. He's got a beautiful family. He's got a
Yeah.
thriving
Mhm.
business. He doesn't have to go fucking play tournaments to make a living. God bless him. You know what I
Thank
mean? And
God for
so,
that. That's got to be the
yeah,
worst thing to have to do as a pool player.
a
You know,
lot of these guys were like that. They didn't prepare for life after pool, Johnny included.
yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
and so my only thing was like, well, I just didn't like how you had this like whole generation of people, and I don't say whole, but like I'm just generalizing here. Like, you had a lot of people that just knew him as like the hero that he was in their eyes, and just wanted to give him a pass or look the other way or like whatever. And it's like, no, man, call him out. Like,
Hmm.
when my kid fucks up, I check him. When I fuck up, Uncle Mike will check me. And it's like, it's no different when you make a mistake. you ought to go and have to deal with those consequences. And in the pool world, there's like, yeah, oh no, he's he's too good of a player. Fuck the player, like
Yeah.
that shit don't matter, you
It should
know.
always be called out. I wish it should have been called out from. I mean, it's happened so many times that we've never heard about from so
Oh
many
yeah,
people across the board.
yeah.
And the reason it keeps happening is because people never call these guys out. There
Well,
has
it's
to
funny
be
because
some kind of accountability.
I'll see people say, "Oh, well, that's their business." Now, let me tell you, it was their business till they decided to play a stream about it. Then it became everybody's business. When they agreed to go play on camera and gamble on camera, they made it everyone's business, Oscar included. And so that's whenever it stopped being their business. And
Well,
so,
even if it's not on stream, in my opinion, it's everyone's business because if somebody stiffs you and you keep quiet about it, and they go stiff 10 more people,
sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
Street
at
Well,
street
but
some
at least they had
cred.
point,
proof. Like, hey, listen, that
yeah,
was a
yeah, oh,
fucking
yeah,
match. You know
yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
So
absolutely,
at least from that standpoint. But
right, right.
um, yeah, I don't know, man. Listen, it ain't the first shitty thing that a pool player's done. It won't be the last.
Absolutely
And
not.
so
No, it's just going to keep
it's
rolling.
just yeah, yeah. But I mean, kudos to him. He
One hundred
did he
percent.
did right by. I don't care if it was. Look, man, I was a drunk for fucking 15 years. Don't mean that you can't one day decide you're gonna be sober. I
Mhm.
could be a terrible dad for my first daughter for the first however many years, until one day I decided to not be an asshole anymore. And so like my point is, you can always like start walking a different path, you know? And so, um, and it doesn't matter what in what aspect. And so from that standpoint, I got a lot of respect for Johnny for making it right.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing. I'm glad it's handled. I'm glad it's put to bed
Yeah.
and over with, and hopefully, as a full community, we can just kind of move forward and move past it as a general whole.
I
It's
think
just
so. I think a lot of people will. I don't think anyone will forget, but I think a
right.
lot of people will go and start being more accepting of Johnny, and hopefully, like the pool world's already tough enough as it is. Fuck, you don't want to be a legend and then make a dumbass mistake and then
Hmm.
be ostracized because of it. So whatever living he can go make at this point of his life in the pool world, like it's already going to be hard if he had a spotless record, let
Right.
alone dealing with that. And so but like I said, he was willing to right the wrong, and God bless him for it. So
I one of the things I've always remembered about Oscar is what a tough time he had when he first got hard times going. Didn't he opened it and then shortly afterwards COVID hit and he
yeah,
was close
it
to
was it
losing it
was
or something like that, or he
yeah.
just
I mean
had
they
just a very tough time with operations.
so they got it from the Markoulis family who owned it. And Chuck, actually, that's the term we're gonna go do is they got it from Mike Markoulis, which is Chuck's son. But the Markoulises have owned Hard Times for forever, and they built it up for. I think Oscar said the other day that they had like over 7 pool halls at some point under a Hard Times
Wow.
brand at one point or
Wow.
another. And so, but I guess they've always had that relationship. They finally decide to like, hey, I don't know if it was like preparing for life after pool, but you get an opportunity that maybe you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, whatever circumstances happen, and so they get a chance to buy a pool room, a pool room that was making money. They just wanted out, and yeah, and then fucking COVID happens, and it's just like, good lord, you know what I mean? It couldn't be at a fucking worse time. All the uncertainty, a new
Yeah.
family, dumping all your money into it, and then not knowing like what, when, if ever, things were gonna change.
Yeah,
So
and being in
it's
California on top of it, which is
California's fucking brutal
Twice
in
the
general.
tax and shit.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean,
just with just everything they went through with COVID, California was the worst place in the
yeah.
country to be because they kept everything much more shut down than everywhere else. Because I
Oh
went through
yeah.
it. Because I went through it in
Yeah.
Oklahoma, and it was. I didn't really notice
Oklahoma
a
didn't give a fuck
difference.
about COVID.
Right.
Oklahoma
We didn't.
was the only place that was. I'll never forget. Oklahoma was the only place that was fucking open in the
Yeah.
world. I drove up
One
from
hundred
fucking to go
percent.
see
Like
to go
we
see
had
Shane
two
and Dennis
weeks.
play.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
had 2 weeks of weirdness, and then it was who cares?
Oklahoma gave zero
Let's go.
fucks. I
Yeah.
love them for it. Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean they it's like anything else, man. You if you want a lot of upside, you're gonna have to take a risk, and it's never gonna be perfect or ideal. The world never fucking been through that, and so I can only imagine the shit that they were stomaching, and the sleepless nights and whatever else, and so but thank God they've gotten through it, and pool hall's doing great. It's a great place to be, man. If you've never been to
Yeah.
Hard Times, it's a fun place, and so it's without a doubt like my home away from home at this point in my life, and I never would have thought it, and so um but it's yeah, it's a great time for sure.
We ran into each other at the Super Billiards Expo. We were both doing the same thing. We were walking around with our cameras filming, and one of the places I seen you stop at, and I was stopped there talking to them for quite a bit, was that Roberto Franco Q. Is that obviously a friend of yours?
Yeah, yeah, Franco's my boy. It's funny because so I was actually Franco's best man at his wedding like 6 months ago, and so but like the story is really funny because so I've known him now for years, but at the time, like when I first I don't say got introduced to him, but started hearing about him was through his jump cues. And so like I would always be on the lookout for like new up and coming cue makers because, I like buying and selling, and up and coming cue makers, there's a lot of like if you they have their retail, if you think you can hit a better number, and willing to put your money at it and see, then you can have potential as like a reseller, on the
Yeah.
secondary market. And so and Expo was one of the places that it's funny because I remember going over there with Pat or to go see Pat one time after I text Pat Davini on the internet, saying, "Hey, I want to be a dealer with you, Pat. I got some money to spend." And Pat was like, "I don't know how to tell you this, Mike, but like I don't really need any dealers. I do just fine selling cues." And I'm just like, "Fuck, what are you gonna tell you? What are you gonna say to someone when like you want to spend money with them, but you want like a little break on the price because you're willing to spend what you think is a respectable amount of
Yeah.
money, And so, but anyway, Franco, um, whenever I would travel, especially here in the state, I always like there's a lot of cue makers here in the state, and I have a lot of friends around the state, and but I always try to like if I'm going somewhere, anytime I can like take care of more things at once, I'll always try to do that. And so I was going up for something. I don't remember what I was going up for, but I would stop in Austin, talk to Hanshu. I'd stop in here to talk to see some family, and then anyway, Franco I knew lived in Dallas, and Franco, he's my boy, but he's real fucking particular about who he fucks with. Like he's real old school like that, and he's real like leery about people and don't trust nobody and just, you know, um but anyway, I remember going and I had all my girls with me, and I'll never forget, I think I was coming back down the state, and I stopped at this place. And you think when you think about all these great cue makers, like, oh, it's gonna be some cool shop and blah. No, it's somebody's fucking garage most of the time. Is majority of the time whenever you go to somebody, and it's usually at their house. And this was no different. And so my girls were waiting in the car for like an hour, and but I was in there, and I think I just told them I was going ahead of time, like a couple days before. But I didn't ask him like, "Hey, can I?" I'm going because I knew where he lived. And so anyway, I ended up stopping at the shop, and I think I probably had like maybe like 10 grand on me or something, that I wanted to spend with him. And and so there I was, and I'm looking around. He's got shit hanging, that's a year away, 3 months away, whatever away, and I'm telling him all the reasons why he should take my money. He's telling me all the reasons why he doesn't want my money, you know. And like culturally, Mexicans get real offended whenever you don't want to take somebody's money. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm just like, I'm trying to fucking spend some money with this dude. And I was like, I don't like hearing no. And he told me no on more than one occasion that day. And so I'll never forget, I left home empty-handed, and Franco wasn't, you know, fucking fluid. You know what I mean? Like he was hand them out too, selling cues. You know what I mean? But he had his reasons why he didn't necessarily trust me, didn't know me from whoever, And so yeah, it was just funny because I go home empty-handed, and then I forgot how far thereafter, like he would say, "Hey, I got a cue," and um, help me move it. And then we started having a little bit of relationship like that, kind of dipping your toe in the water. And anytime you do business with someone, especially at the beginning, like if you're wanting to make money off of someone, you usually got to take the worst of it at the beginning,
Oh yeah.
and so before you can get the better of it. And I knew that, And so I'm proud to say like I've helped him grow the brand over the last 5+ years or whatever it's been now at this point. But he's family. He calls me all the time. We text all the time. Um, he gets tilted about stuff, and I'm talking him off a ledge, and but like it's been kind of like kind of like what I was saying earlier about like giving constructive feedback, right? And with Franco, it's no different. Because I remember like he came out with the series maybe like 2 years ago that I wasn't necessarily in love with, but Franco for him he was doing like inlays and stuff, and I just told him, man, hey, listen, I mean it's different, but like it ain't there yet, So like don't put all your eggs in that basket because this is the home run that you're hoping it to be. And this year he had home run. This year the stuff he came up
Yeah.
with was bomb, and it's been great to see him kind of come like the evolution that he's done, and I'm super proud of him. And yeah, I'm really happy to call him a friend. Whatever part that I've had in helping grow his business has been small compared to like the amount of hours that dude spends in the shop, putting in the work and taking risks like anybody else. You know what I mean? And so, but it's kind of the same way. It's like there's no you do things for people to see publicly, they're gonna judge you publicly, and sometimes they're gonna
Of
fucking
course.
they're gonna look at you negatively and they're gonna talk shit about you and they ain't gonna like what you're doing or whatever. But then once you kind of weather that and then you come through like this past year, and I'll never forget like the coolest story was there at Philly this last year, um, when Shelby went up to him and he was saying that Shelby was saying that a lot of the cue makers that had gone up to Shelby talking about, man, you see how have you seen Franco's cues this year? Fuck, he's really leveled up. And so to as his friend, I felt really happy for my friend finally getting some fucking respect that
Yeah.
he deserves. You know what I mean? Not to say that maybe they didn't in the past, but like that's whenever it was like,
Mhm.
you did it, buddy. So keep on going. And I'm glad he did. And like I said, I'm really proud of him. But he's a much better friend than he ever is a cue maker. I'll put it like that. And so, yeah, he had asked me to be his best man. I never been to a wedding if I'm being honest with you. And so I was like shocked that he asked me, and I was like, hell yeah. And so um, that was another cool part of the year. Oscar and Des went out there too, and so um, yeah, it was great. It was really really cool.
Yeah, I remember that. That's probably where I spent the most time. I was just taking footage. Absolutely beautiful cues he brought this year, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's one of those ones where you go there on the first day, and you see the prices on everything, and then as the expo progresses, you see sold, 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 and it's not like they're $500 cues. I mean these things are
Yeah.
priced like a used car. It's they're all spoken for though. That's the playable art, I guess, that people look for, and
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter which one. Everybody there, they all bring their best shit, and everybody's shit spoken for. It's really it's incredible to
Yeah.
see. I love
The
going there every year.
For the custom cues for sure. That's my favorite part. And then the networking side of it too. But for sure, the
Yeah,
first thing is the custom cues. And um, yeah, those dudes are, and they're all really similar. They're all fucking introverts. They're all fucking awkward to some extent. They're all a bunch of fucking nerds. And but they all make like fucking really beautiful pieces of work in their own like unique way and unique style. Um, yeah, it's just that's the best part of going out there to Philly is for sure the custom cues. But like when you come out of it, when you're a guy like Franco, it's all great and all once you sell, or even like if you're a name
Mhm.
guy or whatever, you know what I mean? But like they're all nervous, dude. You know what I mean? They're all like, fuck, I hope I do good. Like because they all put their eggs in that basket, and for a lot of them do anyway, put their eggs in the basket where they're hoping to make sales. And
yeah.
so
And it's hard
it
enough just paying for the rental on those boots.
Oh yeah, I mean you're stuck. You're in the whole 5 grand before you even put up your sign. Between travel and booth space and then hotel. So it's a tough nut to crack. And I've had that debate with them where or not just with him, but with a lot of queue makers. I'm like, is it really worth it? Can you reach more people online compared to going out in front of people?
Yeah,
But Philly does bring out buyers, that it does, and that market out there, it's people with disposable income as well, and international buyers and dealers as well. So like you get the best of a lot of worlds out there for what they're doing, what custom Q makers are doing. So um but yeah, I mean everyone's trying to like and there's no like nothing's gonna tell you what something's worth, you know, because I could make something and you can make the exact same thing, and what I can sell it for and what you can sell it for is can be fucking night and day, you know. And at the same time, like I know I'm not gonna say any names, but I know Q makers that they have a Rolodex of customers that they can sell to, and God bless them for it. But the
Oh yeah,
secondary market on their Qs are fucking awful. You know, I can't give some of these fucking things away.
yeah.
You know,
It's
but
not
you
it's not
don't
like the
learn.
BK Rush market.
Yeah, but you don't know unless you try. You know what I mean? And
Right.
see what sticks. So, but that's just part of it too, you know, and that's part of like the when you're buying and selling, that's part of the like risk reward with everything as well,
Yeah.
you know. And so it's not just you can't just have all the fucking upside in the world, you know, 'cause that's just not how it goes.
Oh yeah,
So
you got to appeal to the markets. It's why Dodge, Ford, and Chevy will put out a $30,000 model as opposed to an $80,000 model. You know, you gotta have something available for all wallets.
sure, yeah, yeah, and like
Is
and
that
and in Franco's case, like he came in there with his highest price points ever, you know, and completely going against his bread and butter, you know, because his jump cues would sell, you know, and so he didn't have very many. But like, and I've always had this conversation with him, and he's like, I'm not just a jump cue maker. I'm a cue maker, you know, and he wanted some fucking respect on his name,
yeah?
and God damn it, he got it.
This
So
was the year. Yeah, they were
yeah,
outstanding.
yeah,
Yeah, I got a
yeah,
lot of
yeah, they were
footage.
great. Hmm.
What if you were going to play? Is that what you would use? The Franco cue, or do you got something else in your bag? I'd assume you got multiple cues in your bag.
I got a bunch of shit here, stuff that I'll get from over the years. But I did a deal with a guy from Greece actually. It was called IQQs, and it was actually Kazakis' sponsor way back when, before he got sponsored with Predator. And that was part of like how I started even doing all this was just seeing like random ass patches on players, and then just seeing about doing business with companies, you know. And that was one of them actually. And anyway, I started like buying and selling from this guy from Greece, and he sent me like a break cue, which it was cool. And then he sent me, and then I was already like selling some jump cues and selling some playing cues of his. And then he was like, "I'm gonna send you a shaft. Just find a butt to put it on." And I was like, "All right, whatever." And um, anyway, I put that shaft on that brake butt, and I don't even like wrapless cues or wrap cues at that point in my life, you know. But as soon as I hit a ball with that thing, I was like, man, that hits pretty good. And so, and the only reason why I never got rid of it is because I remember Pat telling me Davini one time, and after I had a cue that played really well, and then I ended up selling it like I do everything fucking else up until that point. But Pat said, you know, finding a good shaft is like finding a good putter. You know, once you find it, don't let it go. And so I was just like, okay. And so when I put that shaft on that brake butt and that thing hit good, I said, you know, I don't even like I said, I don't even like wrap cues, but I kept it, and I don't play hardly at all anymore as it is. But yeah, that's the one that I got right now. And I've gotten cues from, like I said, other friends of mine as well over the years. And
Yeah,
every now and then I'll go hit balls or I'll try like obscure shit. But um, yeah, I mean, you know, that's part of the plus of having friends who are cue makers as well. Sometimes that, you know,
absolutely.
you get cool gifts sometimes.
We got a great custom cue for custom cues. He's building me a new sword as we speak.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm excited to see that he's getting back into playing and open up his shop again. So we're excited to see some stuff from him. Hopefully, we can get him in the expo in the coming year or two.
Yeah, you should,
Um,
man. A
yeah,
lot of people out
it's
there.
yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite things. I was an addict for several years. I've been clean 11 years, and
God bless you.
that's one of the treats for me is you know, instead of going out and buying dope and shit like that, you know, it's like I get to do these things now. I get to go to
Yeah,
pool
yeah,
expos and buy cues
yeah.
and do all this fun shit. So yeah, I collect. I got a wall. I collect a lanyard from there every year. So
Same, same, same. I got them actually right. You can kind of see them right here.
yeah,
Yeah.
you got to fight the guy that sells hats when you're walking in. Sell me a lanyard, bro.
Oh yeah, no, I've always kept them no matter
Oh
where
yeah, you get
that,
it. You get it with your badge. Yeah.
I'll go and yeah, but I always keep a little souvenir somewhere.
Let me let's wind this down. You've been on with us an hour and 20 minutes. I told you it was going to be an hour. This guy already. We're supposed to have a light week of pool. This is like your fifth show this week, right?
I don't even. Yeah, well, I had to do some stuff ahead of the tournament, and then such stuff with Shane Tyree ahead of BCA, and
That was the
but yeah,
national
no,
championship show, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, and that's part of like, look, when you're doing any of this shit, and this is like the best. Don't be afraid to like do stuff with people in the industry because, like, the more if you think you got a platform that can serve them, then goddamn it, go and serve them because
Yeah.
they can help you out as well. And so and along the way you'll realize that like man, there's some really great people in the industry that maybe you didn't know about either, like the Peach Hours as a prime example of that. So
Love the
that's
peach
like
hours.
What did
oh
they
dude,
give you?
they're
One of those Camelot cues is what you opened up?
well, so they're sponsoring the Chuck, which we're doing next week, and so but it was funny because we were like I usually am the one to help get sponsors on for the tournaments we'll do at Hard Times. And so me and Oscar were driving during the MR one morning and we were like just bouncing off ideas of like I was thinking about hitting up this guy, hitting up that company or whatever. But I just remember like the interaction that I had with the Peach Hours when I saw them debut in Sophia's line. And it was a small interaction, but it was super positive. And you've always seen people over the years, but like I never really had fucked with them a whole lot. And so anyway, I went out there in Philly, did this little thing with Sophia, interviewed. I think it was Joe, and then when we're thinking about sponsors, I said, what about the Peach Hours? And for us, like Q wise, I've never moved one, so like I don't know how we're gonna do with them. But I was like, they look like they're great, and they're really great people from my interaction with them. So I said, let's try it, man. And if they say no, okay, then we'll go and knock on somebody else's door. And if they say no, then we'll go knock on somebody else's door.
Yeah.
And but anyway, when they had agreed to sponsor the tournament, and then I was talking with Jake the son, and they've been great as far as like ideas and material and all these things, man. But I've thoroughly genuinely enjoyed talking with them every time we do talk. And anyway, early on, maybe like whatever it was 2 months ago, he was like, hey, what's your address? And I'll get like that from random ass people sometimes, and I'm like, just and then I'll come home after a trip
Yeah.
and what the fuck is this box, what's that, you know what I mean? And so what I didn't know was that they wanted to send a thank you because of that thing that I did with the Sophia stuff and like talking about the queue. But I just did it because I got a lot of love for Sophia because I've seen her since she was, and now this is her last year at Junior
Yeah.
Nationals, and I was proud of her for having her own queue line and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, like there's never this perfect the business side of doing this shit and the passion side of doing this shit, like it's very difficult to be able to understand
Of
and and
course.
and balance. You know what I'm saying? And some people may think their stuff is great. Some people may think your stuff is trash, and vice versa. You know what I mean? And that's just part of it. Um, but like, I didn't go shake them down, and that was never my intent. I didn't want anything from them. I didn't expect anything from them. They were just showing me love for me showing them love, which I thought
Right.
was dope. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it was a pleasant surprise. And Jake was like, "Look, you do whatever you want to do with that queue." They said so. What they ended up doing was they sent me the queue. They were like, "You do whatever you want to do with the queue." The shaft, they sent me a shaft for my playing queue, their rogue shaft, and that one was for me. Which I'm gonna keep the queue because it's just great. I love the gesture, and
Yeah, it's
and who they
beautiful.
are. But yeah, yeah, yeah. But like that's little stuff where you're just like, man, there's some, and you never know when stuff like that can go and happen when you go and just talk with someone or interview someone or
Yeah.
talk with this and they may be look listen they may be some like obscure Q maker or obscure company, but doesn't mean that they can't be the next fucking Q Tech or they can't be the next fucking Shelby Williams or the next Eddie Cohen or the next
Yep.
fucking Paul Drexler or whatever. You know what I mean? But everyone's got to go and start somewhere in their own like market. And so yeah, it was a really like just it that gesture was just dope in and of itself. I didn't even need the queue. The fact that they even thought about that was just great and just a testament to who they are as people. And so
And
um
to add on to that, I know I've told the story here before, but I'll tell it again just for the fun of it. I've got a PHR from 2001.
Jeff
One of
loves
their,
it.
yeah,
I love PHR, great people.
yeah.
It's 2001 Pro Series from them. 2019, I was in a bar playing and I got pissed off that I missed a shot and I went to slam the cue on my foot and I missed.
Hey,
And it just, the bottom of the cue just exploded.
beautiful. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, I know. Terrible on my part. And I'm trying to figure out how to fix it and everything else and ship it back to Peach Hour and they go, cover shipping, we'll fix it. And they just shipped it back.
That's yeah, you know how terrible that is for business? It's
Yeah.
awful. But how
Like,
that's how great they are as
terrible.
people. Yeah,
That's the
uh,
company that they are. That is
dude,
how amazing they are.
I can't like there's so many things like that are like that in that same area where like for the business side of it, it makes me cringe. But like the as a consumer, you're like, fuck, how do you not want to go support that brand more?
I'm
You know
not
what I
gonna,
mean?
Yeah.
I don't know that I'll ever
Yeah,
buy a queue that's not a Peach Hour at this point in my life,
yeah.
just because of that. I mean, that's insane.
They're American made, and if you talk and which is a whole other thing in and of itself
Hmm.
because it's so tough to do in this economy. But like the other part of it is, they're coming out with this cool like customizable option. And if you talk to not at least majority of the queue makers that I've talked to, custom queue makers, none of them want to do custom orders anymore. None of them. And don't get me wrong, some of them still will, but it's very it even if they do it, they don't like doing it because they don't like the hassle of having to deal with somebody calling every whatever it is to check up and what's the status of this and they're bitching about the time and queue makers always take forever. They always fucking take longer than expected. And so when they were telling me like they're coming out with this customizable tool, I said, man, you know how much work you're just adding onto your plate, you know? And but that's they wanna give people a different experience, you know?
Yeah.
And how can you not like just admire and fucking envy that, dude? You know? And so but yeah, it just you never know what you're gonna get when you go and deal with people or interact with them, and so um, it's been a wild ride, dude. Because like I said, I've never would have thought I would have be running tournaments or be being hitting up companies for sponsorship of X, Y, and Z that we got going on. But it's I've enjoyed that part of it as well because of just the networking and the building relationships and like I got some pretty good friends out of the deal too, which I wouldn't trade for the world, So, um, yeah, it's
Yeah,
great.
that's what we've been building on. We got some great people on board, but it's an awkward act of going out and soliciting people. It's like, hey,
Sure.
we do X amount of views. You could be a part of that, and it's just a weird thing. People
Yeah.
never answer you, or you just like you said
It's
before,
a
you
part
just
of
got
it
to keep
too.
knocking on doors. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, don't be afraid to hear no. That's for sure.
yeah,
And like, what's the worst that can happen? You're going to be right back where you were right now. You know what I mean? So who
exactly,
cares? So,
exactly.
but look, especially, man, I can't tell you the amount of fucking people that just looked at me and was like, this fucking Mexican all tatted up and come and ask me for this and that, whatever. And but he also like before I started even knocking on any doors, like I by far took the worst of it, because I went almost
Right.
bust, trying to do all this shit on my own and trying to figure out creative ways to stay in the green whenever I would go on a trip or whatever, before I would ever get any kind of like support or anything like that. And so, but that's part of like just you gotta believe in yourself, and if you think
Just
you
foot
can
the
make
bill.
something out of it, yeah, yeah. If you're not willing to invest in you, then how can you expect somebody else to go and
That's
invest
Right.
right.
in you? So but it's like yeah, I and I'll tell you another one, and that's my last thing, but it's I remember I was at Hanshu shop one day, and it was right around Derby, so it was like right around December, and Trujillo from Fort Worth Bears did hit me up, and he had sponsored my Derby trip once before, but I was gonna like it was the first time. Oh, I wasn't gonna have any space out there, and he had messaged me and he said, "Hey, are you gonna be at Derby this year?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm not. I don't have a booth. and I really wanted a booth because at the time I thought I wanted to be able to do a podcast and I want to have my booth set up and all this shit. And so I said, I'll be honest with you, I got an idea of I think of things I want to do. I got no idea how it'll go, but if you're willing to show some love, I'll go and I'll try it. And he was like, so basically I didn't have any fucking clue or plan or nothing, you know. I said, and I was thinking about going and interviewing people on the fly and getting more short form content, but he had never seen it. I had never done it. I didn't know what the fuck it was gonna be like, you know. But he wanted to show some love and respected my work ethic, if nothing else, you know. And yeah, that was like a really cool thing because it was a completely like blind sell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now it's easier to go and say like, "Hey, I'm gonna go do like I did at this event, whatever." But like that time, that event, I don't know what the fuck I was gonna do, you know. And he was still willing to help out. So
Albert's a good guy.
he is, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's like, and there's not many like that, you know. But he's definitely one of the great guys. That's for sure.
Let me hit you with my rapid fire questions real
Okay,
quick, and then we'll hit a couple news stories, and then we'll get you out of here.
sure.
This is rapid fire. It's 5 questions. It said rapid fire. Take as long as you need to answer them. Question number 1: You're building the ultimate set of billiard balls. What color is your 4 and 5?
They're the same. They're the same color because I love chaos. So I'll make them just I'll make
Pink
them
and purple.
that color pink right there. They're both the same color. They're gonna have to go and look and see, is that a 4? Is that a 5? Is that a 6? Is that a 9? They're all
That'd
gonna be
be
the same color, every one of them.
beautiful.
Just to piss them off.
Favorite pool hall visited?
Oh man. Okay.
Excluding hard times.
Yeah, hard times home away from home. Hanoi was great. The Perry room was beautiful. Biggest pool room I've ever been to. Great food. But to be honest with you, like domestically, actually, that's probably my international favorite one is the Perry room. But domestically, and I love the aesthetic of it, and it's Janet's room, borderline. And if you've ever been there, I highly recommend it. It's in a little hole in the wall town, but I love from the wood floor to the brick to the space. I love the way that thing looks. It looks real, like it's still modern, but looks old school. And I love the way that room is just laid out, you know. So
I was through
yeah,
there 2 times this year, and I didn't get a chance to stop in. I was in
highly recommend.
Bristol. I was in Bristol, and I just couldn't bring myself to get over there. I'm really annoyed with
Where's
myself.
it at? What city's it in?
It's
Bristol.
Bristol, Tennessee,
Oh,
or
Bristol,
I
Yeah,
think
Tennessee.
it's Bristol,
it's in
Virginia. So
Tennessee.
it's yeah, so it's like it's right. They call it borderline because it's right on the border between the two states. I
Oh,
think literally the street is like
Yeah,
the state line.
it is.
But yeah, you hear like that iconic Brunswick sound, you know, when the ball sit in the
oh yeah,
pocket.
yeah.
And so yeah, that room, I love I love the look of that room. It's so sick.
Best event you've witnessed live?
Ooh, that's um I've seen some good ones live, man. Um Probably when Dennis came back on Shane out there in Oklahoma. And I fucking hate Oklahoma. It's terrible. I fucking hate
It's
Oklahoma. But
terrible. Well,
yeah,
you were in the
but I've
city. You were not. Oklahoma
yeah,
City is terrible. Let's
yeah.
go with that.
Well, that and I'm from Texas too, so like
Yeah.
part of the deal when you get born here is you got to hate
Yeah, no, you got to
Oklahoma.
hate
But
Oklahoma. Yeah.
and that it was snowy too, and you know this Mexican ain't good in dealing with fucking snow. But seeing Dennis come back from that
Yeah.
deficit, which I knew there was a lot of money in the line,
It's,
was the craziest thing I've ever seen in person.
Yeah,
the
that's
most
the
epic
most
match of the last 25 years.
that's the most in stroke anyone's ever been in the history of shooting pool.
Yeah, and actually that Shane versus Federer part one was a great match too.
Yeah.
It was real underrated. At least the last day was. The first, I don't like long race rotation anyway, but like that last day was fucking crazy. You know, it had so many swings.
Best gambler you've ever seen?
Oh, how do you define great best? Like they come out winners because most gamblers are
Yeah, just a notorious gambler. Somebody who's always
Tony, I
willing to
guess.
do it.
Yeah, Tony's for sure. Tony's got such a disrespect for money, and yeah, by far Tony.
Last one, player that hasn't won yet, that's on the cusp of winning.
Man, um, it's a good question. I mean, I'm probably gonna go with my boy Max. You know, he's been there, but I think maybe it might be that door might have already closed. Perhaps I don't know, but there's a lot of them, man. To be honest with you,
Yeah, yeah,
and
it
and
could
then
be
it goes to
anybody.
like
Yeah,
how you define it too, because like I'd probably say Victor, but Victor's won a couple of Pro Beard Series tournaments, but I don't wouldn't consider those like a major at the time. So I don't know. It's just hard how you define it, I guess. But there's a few Europeans I would put in there for sure.
I've been seeing Mario He for like the past 5 years.
I was gonna say Mario too, man. Fuck,
It's gotta
dude. I
be
was gonna say
it's gotta
Mario.
be Oi though.
Yeah,
Like Oi is
yeah.
there. I need Oi
He's
to
been
win.
playing good, and he's been playing
Yeah,
consistently good.
Yeah.
it's got that house
Finish
stuff.
wise.
I need that
Yeah. Well,
interview.
and
I need that game winning interview from Noyuki Oi.
yeah, I remember when I was in the finals of the World 10 ball, and this seems like forever ago,
Mhm.
But yeah, the last like year he's been playing super consistent for sure. He'd be a good one too, and he's like over 40. He's like in his
Yeah.
he's
40,
like around David, yeah,
yeah,
mid 40s, I think.
42,
Wow.
43, something like
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
We had a light weekend pool on the news front. We talked about Oscar getting paid in full finally. The last bit of news I had was there's a new Viking player, Justin Bergman. He joins a stable with Fader, Moritz, and Margaret Steyer. So they've been teasing a little square of the queue every day this week. So we should see a new queue from him. But I mean that's good. I guess it means that he's serious about this comeback and he wants to be a part of everything again. If he's fielding a deal like that.
Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, like he's playing, he's getting out there. That's for sure. And Justin's a real like it ain't like Justin ain't had offers before, like because he's had
Yeah,
offers.
yeah.
So and he's had that Lomax with that Kielwood shaft for forever. Because I remember seeing
Mhm.
him after my first Derby trip, stopping out there in St. Louis, and he had that same cue, and I was shocked when I seen them go and sign him because he's a real like he didn't never like to change.
Yeah,
So
when Bergen was teasing, had something coming out. Like it being a Q sponsor was not even on my radar. I had no idea this was coming. That was
well, the only reason why I thought, and I reached out to another buddy of mine who's like the head of another real big company, and I said, "Did y'all sign him or did Viking sign him?" Because Viking now was posting that video with like all
yeah.
you saw was a hand or something.
Right,
So
right.
I was like, who signed Berg? And I knew that I had already known that they were at least open to Qs maybe like 6 months ago. So which was like I said, he wasn't ever really playing, so it didn't really make a difference. But um, yeah, it's good on them. Justin seems to have his shit back together. I love watching him play,
Yeah,
and hopefully that's mutually beneficial for the both
yeah.
of them. So and I think he's got a real good chance of making the team this year. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be there. I mean, with Johan back in the fold, you would think that Bergman is, at worst case, the last wild card in, as long as he plays a couple more matchroom events.
Yeah. Oh, actually, so I'm supposed to have those two guys on. Actually, I'm supposed to have Justin and Tom Cousins on, like at the end. I think they're playing in July, and I'm
Yeah,
supposed to have them on the show either at the beginning of July or the end of June. I don't remember, but I'm supposed to have them on the show.
We had a WPBA event at Soaring Eagle, Michigan. This was always a good event. Um, just briefly, just a couple of highlights from the winners round yesterday. Christina Lasteba over Sophia Mast 8-4. Wei over Pia 8-6. In the loser round, we had Margaret over Brittany Bryant 8-2. Christina Tkach over Brianna Miller 8-1. Yesterday in the loser round 8, Margaret went over Sophia Mast Hill 8-7. Pia went over Christina to catch 8-7. But the bit of controversy from this event was a potential sharking episode that we have here. There's a lady in a pink shirt around like 1 o'clock when you're looking at the video. She gets up a few times right when Christina dogs the 6
Yeah,
ball.
no movement, Alex's
Oh, no,
dad.
no.
Stay still, buddy. All right,
And-
so Christina lining up with some low ball. She's going to try to draw
And then she
to the
pump
right
fakes
long rail
right
and
there.
back
Yeah.
across to the left long rail for a good look at the 7. Oh, she
Oh,
misses the
no.
6.
What's going to happen?
Oh, does she get away with it?
I don't
No,
know.
I don't think she did. Oh, my life. It's brutal. I don't
The
think.
drama.
Yeah, that's a you look at that layout for Christina, what she had left, and that's she's going on.
That wasn't a hanger, but that lady did get in her head, and I was watching it
Yeah.
live. I watched more of this WPBA event like this past weekend than I have in the past like 12 months combined. Probably I was watching a lot of these matches, and that was one of them. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that lady was thinking or whose aunt that is. Someone told her to sit the fuck down. Okay, and that was such a I don't even think it was so much like players don't mind if you get up, but then she pump fakes, and I think it was a pump fake where you saw her kind of like pause and then go back. But Christina's a professional; she should have gotten up and just and
That's
waited
what we
for her to
said,
sit down, and then redo it. To her credit, though, she didn't seem like. Because I would have been staring her down if I was Christina. I would have fucking been there right after I missed that ball. You know what I mean? But that lady, I mean, god damn, right there, right on her line of sight, right there. That was tough. But I don't think it was a hanger either way. So
No,
it was a really good match.
Oh, that's brutal.
There was a lot of good matches. So Tava played well. Brianna Miller beat Kelly Fisher, I think, if I remember right. Sophia got some good wins. So I think she made it to the final
Sophia,
she went 5th, 6th, right?
Yeah,
5th, yeah. So today we had the hot seat match. Wei beat Christina Zlateva 8-3, and then Margaret went over Pia 8-4. You had the B-side final, which was Fefalova over Zlateva. I feel so bad for Christina Zlateva.
She is so close to just snapping one of the things off. Yeah,
she's like the queen of third
she's
place.
Like in
there.
that fucking 3rd, 4th purgatory.
Yeah,
she's like just always in that range. Always.
The final was Wei over Margaret 10-7. Obviously, Wei's your winner. Margaret, Christina Zlateva take home the top 3. Pia 4th.
She was
Sophia
up like 5-2 was Margaret. I thought Margaret was going to win. She was up 5-2 on her. Yeah.
We were talking about in a group chat. Diana was bringing up Emily Duddy, and I mean we've seen her in the 30s. You know the past
consistently
couple years, and she had a good run. Yeah. So look at that. Salute.
Yeah. There you go.
That's about it for the news and notes. We just got a couple plugs. Obviously, Mike is going to be at the Chuck Markoulis Memorial Tournament, June 11th through the 14th at Hard Times. We talked about Peace Shower. They're going to have a demo table there. They're doing 1 pocket Thursday, Friday, and 9-ball is Saturday, Sunday. My buddy, Frank Maialetti, Billiard Sports Network, BSN, he's having an event in 3 weeks' time, Saturday, June 27th at Bluegrass Billiards in Philly. Rachel Walters versus Ashley Benoit, 1 pocket, $3,000 in the middle. When you watch Frank's streams, it's always a free stream. He has 8 camera angles, and obviously it's 2 women gambling 1 pocket. What do you not like about that? If you need a cheesesteak request, it's very important to consult with Frank. Never go to Pat's or Gino's. That's imperative to him. That's imperative to a Philly guy. Don't eat that swill, he says. Don't forget our friend Hammer Custom Cues on Facebook, Hammer Cues on Instagram. And who can forget about our brother in the chat, Greg Hogue. Red Door Den Training Center. 2 hours, 80 buckaroos. He will help you win. This is the guy to go see. Greg Hogue on Facebook. Red Door Den Training Center on Facebook. There's also a Red Door Den Training Center on YouTube. Great videos on there. And if you're an Instagram user, Red Door Den Training on Instagram. Those are the plugs.
Greg's a
Those
good
are our
dude, too.
friends.
I like Greg.
Greg's great.
Greg's our
people, man.
brother.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
the Red Door Den had a little bit of a flooding issue yesterday, day before, big storms in Tulsa. So anything you guys can do to help Greg out, sign up for training lessons, get boot camps, get him some money in his pocket so he can build a French drain or something to
go.
keep that from happening again.
Yeah, for sure.
And he'll make you some pizza.
Yeah.
Really?
Man.
Yeah, no, he makes
yeah.
pizza. I've heard it's good. I every time I've been there, I've never been able to get any though.
Hey, let me tell you, if I got back to Oklahoma, I would for sure get some lessons from Greg, just because of the experience alone. And Greg looked good whenever I seen him out in St. Louis. He looked real fit.
Yeah, he looked real good.
Like he's got his shit together. And so, yeah, I would for sure show that dude some love, man. He's a real nice guy too. Good heart.
Yeah, he's our buddy. We had him on, and he's been our mascot ever since. We love Greg. Man, what a show, Mike. It's I didn't know what a busy week it was for you. I figured it was a light week in the pool world. I didn't know you'd be doing 5 shows this week, but man, I'm so happy you came on. We're both so happy you came on.
Yeah.
This was overdue for us. We appreciate it so much. Thank you guys in the chat for being a part. I see you guys. I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody. Wanted to give Mike some respect.
No,
thank
good,
you guys.
man.
Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate it, everybody. Mike, hang out for a second. We're gonna end the show. Thank you guys. Go see our sponsors. Greg says appreciate you very much. We love you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. That is it for the Q-Tang Clan. Join us Sundays, 10 p.m. This is where we are. We make sure you guys watch Dogging It. I don't know if you have like you do the show whenever you feel it.
I don't like.
It's always usually around noon, right? Like 12 noon.
I try to. Yeah, it just depends though. If I get too committed, then like it starts stressing me out. So I just like fucking winging it most time. But it's funny. Hey, so I'll tell you this funny story. Last week I was without power for like I don't know how many days, and then I didn't have internet or whatever. So last Sunday I was sweating, literally sweating watching the show, and I was like, I think you guys came on a little bit late because it was like 9 o'clock. And I was like, man, these motherfuckers said they were going to be on at fucking 9 o'clock. And here I am. And I don't have shit else to do because in my hot ass house with no power. And, but anyway, I enjoy what you guys do and got a lot of respect for what you guys have going on. So keep it going and appreciate you guys for having me.
That's all we need. Mutual respect. That's what started this. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have this show to do. You got me pointing in the right direction, and we've been pedaling ever since. So for myself, for Greg, for Diana, for Molina, Mike, take care. Comb your hair. Go Knicks.